Hey guys, wanted to go ahead and do a random video here. This is totally off topic, but I wanted to do a video talking about, in my opinion, the most revolutionary video games of all time, at least in the beginning, as well as, to go from there. All right, let's start with the first one, Ninja Gaiden. So, dude, when Ninja Gaiden came out, it was crazy. It was so crazy because now, when you look at it now, it looks really dated. You're just like, what is this? But at the time, this was the only game back then that actually had animation, like cinematics, and a real story. And the story was like pretty serious, you know? Most games, they gave you like a title screen, like maybe a little paragraph, and that was it. But this game, it had full-on cutscenes baked into the game. And as a kid, like the story, it pulled you in. You wanted to know what was gonna happen. You wanted to know what was gonna happen next. It was really dark, dramatic, kind of grown up, but you couldn't get far. You know what I mean? Like I remember as a kid, I'd be playing the game and it was so fucking hard. Like I couldn't get past, like it was so hard. And you're just like trying over and over and you just are cranking it through. But I guarantee you no kids could beat this game. Even adults couldn't beat this game. But like you kept going, you kept trying, and it was just like, the story in this game, especially at this time, was like next level. This was definitely the first time where like you literally saw cinematics in a game. Up until this point, like you never saw it. So this was big time huge. Alright, so the next game I want to talk about was Street Fighter 2. I remember a long time ago, I was at a swap meet, and I remember like just seeing Street Fighter 2 for the first time. It just blew my mind. So the graphics were actually pretty cutting edge at the time. The colors, the animation, it looked like no other games I've ever seen before. But the idea of a fighting game where you had like 6 buttons, like light, medium, heavy punches, and kicks, nobody had ever done that before. And I remember like watching and seeing like Chun-Li on the screen, and I was like, holy cow, who is that? You know what I mean? It was crazy. All right, next game I want to mention. This is a really, really old one. So this game, it's called Myst. And I don't think anybody remembers this, but basically, this wasn't just a game. Basically, the premise is like basically you're put into this world, or this other world, and it's like back then, you know, you would click forward and it would go one screen, forward and one screen, and these days, obviously, you can go 360 and all over the place. But at then, it wasn't just a game. Like it felt like you were stepping in like a different world. Like the music was haunting, the atmosphere was super eerie, the story was vague, but somehow it was really compelling, and it didn't tell you much. You just felt like something was going on, and you had to figure it out, right? And the locations were like unreal. Like they almost felt like photorealistic, but almost like a dream. Like you'd like be walking through one click at a time. And again, as I said, if you look at it now, it feels super outdated. You click, the screen loads. But back then, it was mind-blowing. Like there was nothing like it. And it didn't just play differently. It literally felt different. Like it was quiet. It was isolated. It like the game trusted you to kind of explore and figure things out on your own. It was a crazy-ass game. Alright, next game I want to talk about is Half-Life 1. Now, in my opinion, that game was absolutely revolutionary. Now, I know people are going to say Wolfenstein and Doom, maybe Quake 1 or maybe Quake 2, maybe even GoldenEye, you know? But the thing is, actually no, GoldenEye was pretty revolutionary at the time. Definitely should be mentioned here. But the thing is, and when I first saw those games, I always thought like, oh, that looks pretty fun. Or like, you know, but I didn't think like, dude, this changes everything, right? But Half-Life actually genuinely felt revolutionary. And the reason is because of how they did the human soldiers and the human AI. Like, this is the first time they actually included like smart enemies. Like when you walk into, like I couldn't believe it. They were really smart. They would like take cover, they'd flank, one would shoot you from up top, another would rush you from the side, they'd throw grenades, they'd retreat, they'd run away. It felt like you were fighting real people. And that wasn't just it. Like Half-Life was the only game where I've ever seen where enemies weren't psychic. You know, like most games back then, like somehow like every motherfucking person in that freaking room knew exactly where you were, like all the time whenever you like came out. But this was the one game where like they didn't know where you were. You know, they were just like, you know, you'd pop your head out, nothing would happen, and then you kind of go through and you know they'd all react, but they acted very like human. You know, they would search around. It made everything really feel like really intense. And the other thing that's really crazy is This is like the first game I've ever seen where enemies fight other enemies. It was like you know, like the soldiers would be coming after you, but then if they saw like an alien or something like that, they would go fight in that direction. It was just crazy just seeing a game that would do that. Definitely revolutionary at the time. Alright, so another one I want to talk about is Thief Gold. So this game was revolutionary at the time, and there was no game like it. So it introduced stealth in a way I haven't seen before. So you can just run around like in other games. You had to hide in the shadows, and you had to be quiet because every step kind of mattered, right? So they even had like a little like light gem on the bottom, and what happened is if the area was bright, then the gem would be bright yellow, and then if you were hidden, it was all dark, right? And the point is, you're supposed to keep that gem dark. You got to be hidden, right? And the other thing too, the sound design was like amazing. Basically, if you walked on carpet, you were pretty quiet. But if you walked on metal, then it would get loud, and all the guards would be like, "You Taffer!" Like, you know, they'd just like be looking for your ass. You know what I mean? So that was just amazing at the time. And in many ways, this game actually, it set the framework for other games like Dishonored, Splinter Cell, Tenchu, Metal Gear Solid, Assassin's Creed. Like, they all basically, you know, owe something to Thief. The other thing which I thought was pretty unique to Thief, that I thought was pretty cool, is you really get to see, they nerfed your character down. As in, your character couldn't really do much fights. So you might be able to handle yourself against like one soldier, but then like if there are 3 soldiers, you're dead. Because their rationale is like, you're a thief. You're not a fighter. Versus these guys are like trained fighters in full armor. So like if you fought like 3 of them at a time, you're dead. You know, it was just, this game was wild at the time. Definitely revolutionary at the time. Alright, so the next game I want to talk about is actually a game that not a lot of people know about. So the game is System Shock 2.
Look at you, hacker. A pathetic creature of meat and bone, panting and sweating as you run through my corridor.
So this game was super scary, and honestly, it still is scary today. So what made it scary, what made this game next level was its sound. Like, it's hard to explain, but especially for its time, the sound design was insane. Basically, like, you'd get like creepy ambient noises, you know, glitches, alarms. It all like combined to create this feeling of like dread. And the tone was like really dark, really immersive, and like really unsettling. You basically get dropped into this ship, and right away you notice like something is very, very, very wrong. Like, everything's just like, something's wrong. And as you walk around, you just start to notice like there's people there, but they're not quite right in the head. And like System Shock 2, it actually inspired a lot of other games, like games like Bioshock Infinite, Deus Ex, Dead Space 2. You know, all of it has actually some roots to you know, System Shock 2. This game was just absolutely revolutionary. So I'm going to stop the video here because it's getting a little long. There's definitely a lot more as the years go on, but I'll just stop here and go from there.